Master potter Bill Van Gilder will make 3 elegant vases, all dramatically different, using just a few simple pottery techniques. We'll show you how right now on DIY's Pottery Workshop. Bill Van Gilder is passionate about pots. He's been making functional and decorative clayware for more than 30 years.
Now this ovoid vase and this rounder faceted vase require 2.5 pounds of clay. Those are the smaller pieces. But this faceted vase is made with a different technique. We're going to take some of the clay off the pot just after we've thrown it, which is why we've added an extra pound of clay to this lump.
To make the vases, Bill needs a couple of cheese cutters, a potter's rib, cutting wire, and 2 pieces of masonite.
Okay, we're ready to attach our first piece of clay to the wheel head. Pound it down there. Get it into the center as best you can by your eye. Get the wheel moving pretty quickly.
First, Bill centers the clay. Then he opens it up using 3 fingers to form the base of the cylinder.
A potter works with both hands connected as often as possible. I'm slowly guiding the clay outwards. It's very slippery. The thickness of the base is a little over 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch thick.
Bill uses a needle tool to measure.
I'm going to put it into the base. I'm going to put my thumb against it and take it out. And that measurement is telling me the thickness of the base.
He pushes the low wall inward before pulling the wall up to form a cylinder. To pull the wall, Bill cuts a groove in the base with his thumb and slides the clay upward.
The pressure used at this point is about equal from the inside and the outside fingers.
To demonstrate, Bill cuts the cylinder in half to show what both hands are doing.
My fingers are sliding up the pot and carrying about 1/4 of an inch of clay on the outside layer each time I raise my hands up the pot. I'm going to continue to stretch this bump upward. I'm going to cut another groove at the foot, slot my outside fingertips into that groove, attach my inside fingertips to the interior, and start to raise that wall up. But my outside fingertips are always trailing my inside fingertips by about 1/4 of an inch, all the way to the rim.
Bill's put step-by-step instructions on how to throw a cylinder on DIYnetwork.com. Check it out.
We've got centrifugal force working on this pot. It wants to throw it outward. To prevent that from happening, as I'm pulling up, my right fingertips are actually applying a bit more directional pressure from the outside, causing the cylinder to slightly coax its way inward.
Bill manages the shape by controlling the rim of the cylinder. To level the rim, he makes a bridge with his index finger.
A little bit of compression from all 3 points will take an uneven rim into a straight rim. We add water. We cut the groove. We make the pool. We level the rim.
Bill repeats these 4 steps until the cylinder is the right height.
This little wobble right here means that part of the wall is getting pretty thin, so I don't want to stretch it anymore in that area. Okay.
With an old credit card, Bill removes the excess watery clay, or slip.
I'm very, very lightly pushing the clay from the inside up against the credit card.
He removes the excess water from the inside with a sponge before shaping the top.
You're going to grasp the pot very lightly on the outside. As you near the rim, move your first finger inside, speed the wheel up, and compress it even more.
A final pass to remove his fingerprints, and Bill is ready to take the vase off the wheel head.
I want to show you a little trick. Piece of newspaper. I'm going to make a balloon of this vase by dropping the newspaper on top, slowly rotating the wheel, and lightly touching my finger on the newspaper. Now I can stretch my wire between my thumb tips and pull it beneath the vase, dry my hands. Now the surface of this pot is really sticky. With dry hands, I know from experience, and so will you, that I can grasp this pot and pick it up. If I didn't have the newspaper and I applied this pressure, I'd most likely crush this pot. But since I've created this sort of balloon inside, the pot's not going to collapse.
When DIY's Pottery Workshop continues, Bill forms 3 unique vases using the same cylindrical shape.
This takes a bit of practice. You'll get there.
That's next on DIY's Pottery Workshop. Stay with us. Welcome back to DIY's Pottery Workshop. Master potter Bill Van Gilder is throwing 3 vases. So far, he's centered a 2.5-pound lump of clay on the wheel, opened it up to establish the base, and pulled up the wall to form a cylinder. He smoothed the outside, shaped the top, and used a piece of newspaper to remove the vase from the wheel without crushing it. Now, Bill makes another cylinder.
Now this vase is very similar to our first vase, but I want to show you a variation on it. To make this oval vase, we're going to squeeze the clay with these 2 pieces of masonite board. I'm using the fuzzy side facing the pot. I put them both down on the wheel head and squeeze my pot into an oval. Now, had I not taken the water off the outside, I'd never get these boards off the sides of the pot, but they come off quite easily. After I squeeze the center, I move to each corner. This vase is all about subtle curves. From the top rim, through the walls to the foot. Use my wire, cut the pot loose. Now, because we've distorted this rim and created 2 virtual corners, this pot is easy to pick up as long as my hands are dry and all the slip has been removed from the outside.
With dry hands, Bill can pick up the vase and not leave fingerprints.
This is our 3rd vase that we're going to make. It's what I call a faceted vase. And it's made with 2 really interesting tools that you can find in your supermarket.
First, Bill makes a cylinder with the 3.5-pound lump of clay.
Making good pots is all about original design, good technique, and practice. It's going to take a beginning potter several dozen cylinders before you sort of get the hang of it.
To make the facets, Bill uses a cheese slicer.
I took the original wire off and replaced it with a very thin leader wire, which is what a fisherman uses when they're fly fishing. I epoxied the ends of the roller tight. I'm going to hold it, balance it on my fingertips, hold it down with my thumb, put this wire under the wall of the pot into the beveled cut. I'm going to pull it upwards and try and cut the rim in half. And there's our first facet.
Bill cuts 3 more facets.
I want facets all the way around this piece.
Then he removes the rest of the original surface with a handmade cutting tool.
So I made my own facet tool with a really kinky wire here. There's 2 screws on either side of a piece of hardwood. The wire is kept under tension by the screws. Now what I like about this tool is this bumpy wire creates a real corrugation.
To give the vase a little volume, Bill pushes out lightly from the inside with his fingertips. Bill sets the vases aside for 12 hours until they are leather hard. Before he decorates them, he finishes the base.
We've got to clean up this rim a little bit. Typically, we'd put it on the wheel. We'd use a trimming tool, smooth it. This one, I'm going to do something a little different. I've got a clean, flat surface here. I'm going to set my vase on the surface and rotate it. Larger and larger and larger. What that's doing, it's softening that edge. But this rim can also remain just a little too sharp. So I'm going to press it in a little bit here with the pad of my hand.
Bill softens the bottom of the other vases the same way. When we come back, he'll demonstrate slip decorating, and he'll glaze all 3 vases.
I love to do this slip decorating technique.
Then later, Bill swaps tips with other professional potters at a craft fair on what to look for when buying pottery. When DIY's Pottery Workshop continues. Welcome back to DIY's Pottery Workshop. Starting with a basic cylinder, Bill Van Gilder made 3 different vases. He pressed one between 2 boards to form an oval-shaped vase and faceted the exterior of another with a cheese slicer. Now Bill will add special texture decoration to the round vase. First, he needs a very watery clay mixture, or slip, with all the grit removed. But first, he let the vases dry for about 12 hours until they were leather hard.
Okay, there's our 3 vases finished. But there's still one more thing I want to show you. I want to take our first vase and apply a slip or coating of clay on the outside, and I want to decorate through it. What I've done is I've taken a bucket of scrap clay, the same clay I've made the pots from. I ran it through an 80 mesh sieve, which means that this pudding-looking stuff is pretty fine. So I'm going to dip my pot into this gooey mess. Center it on the wheel. And I'm going to use my sponge. Now I'm going to hold my sponge like a pencil. I'm going to pull the sponge up the side of the slit, making sure that this thin edge cuts through to the pot. I'm going to move around the pot with a sense of rhythm. That's what gives the pot a little bit of liveliness. Now the ridges you see here are the same ridges you see in the finished pot.
Bill neatens up the bottom and the top.
At the top, I'm going to create a neck or a ridge line with the wet slip. I really like this kind of instant decoration. We've now got to get these vases bone dry. They're going to have to sit for about 12 hours, and then we'll get them into the kiln for their first firing.
Following 12 hours of drying and the first of 2 firings in the kiln, Bill waxes the bottom of the vases on a banding wheel before glazing them.
So, I want to show you this little trick. Suppose we set the vase on and it's off center. What I'm going to do is tap it once, twice, 3 times. It's a rhythmic thing. that takes a little bit of practice to learn. I'm watching this top circle, and I'm watching it find its dead center.
Using a Japanese glazing pitcher, Bill first pours glaze inside the vase. A measuring cup works just as well.
Swished around, kind of like washing a bottle, and dumped out. As I'm dumping it out, I'm rotating it because I need to cover every part of the inside.
The vase won't be watertight unless it's glazed inside and out.
And 3.
Bill touches up where his fingertips left bare spots. Using a spoon and a squeeze bottle, he decorates 2 of the vases with contrasting glazes.
Okay, let's see how this one turns out. Now let's take our finished vases, head over to the kiln, and get them fired up to 2200 degrees Fahrenheit and melt these colors onto our pots.
Coming up, a colorful surprise when we open the kiln. And Bill collects a few buying tips from fellow potters. Next, on DIY's Pottery Workshop. Welcome back to DIY's Pottery Workshop. Master potter Bill Van Gilder has created 3 distinct vases from the same cylindrical shape, then decorated each one differently with his trademark palette of glazes. He fired the vases for about 12 hours and then let the kiln cool for another 24. And now he's about to get a first look at his handiwork.
Oh wow, these vases look terrific. You know, I'm always really pleased when everything works on a pot. You know, every potter has a signature sort of style. You'll develop yours as time goes on. I like the color tones, I like the smoothness of the glaze, and I like the fact that it's faded from top to bottom. There's no crazing or crackles on the glaze. The top is smooth. And these are things I look for in my own work or when I'm buying pottery.
To get more do's and don'ts on buying pottery, Bill took a trip to an historic crafts fair, complete with colonial period costumes and hands-on demonstrations. Veteran potter Maureen Mills shared her tips for buying pottery.
I'm really big on details, and I don't mean like really fine decorative technique, but I mean clean edges, well-trimmed forms, clean foot rings. I don't like to see your name scrawled in the bottom of a piece of the pencil and all the rough edges sticking out. I like those things to be cleaned up because I think they show that you have a respect for the work you've just done.
Potter Eric Madsen had his own advice.
I would say to look at the piece as an extension of the artist, which is something you won't find in a mass-produced piece that you might find in a department store.
Bill also talked with Jim McDowell, who has been throwing pots for more than 25 years. He asked Jim what else buyers should consider when purchasing pottery.
Well, I want them to find out also, is the pot fired out of the good material, they use no lead, and that it's well made, it's not going to come apart in your hands, you know. So they want it to be pretty, they want it to be useful also. I think you must educate your public because in order for them to be a repeat buyer, you must tell them about yourself, tell them about your product, the techniques of finishing, how you put your handles on, how you make your lip treatment, how you glaze it, how you fire your body, what kind of clay body you use, you know, and stuff like that. They want to know that I'm a part of every piece that I have has my name on it, and I handle every piece. I didn't ship it out to China or nowhere. I made it here.
So they're buying a small piece of you each time.
They get me every time they get a piece of my pottery.
Straight edges, smooth rims, food-safe surfaces, microwavable, oven-proof. These are just a few things to consider when buying handmade pottery. Bill's put the rest of his pottery buying tips on DIYnetwork.com. Give them a look.
Remember, the making of these vases is a real challenge. Keep practicing. You'll enjoy them so much more because you've made them. I'm Bill Van Gilder. Have a good time in the studio.